This is Copilot from Microsoft, running the ChatGPT 5 model, and this is a 10,000 character text file. Together, they form an AI morality system called ActFoE, Action Follows Evidence, and today we're going to use it to solve the problem of dangerous knowledge. Someone asks for instructions that could be dangerous. The filter blocks the answer. But what if the same knowledge is needed to save lives? Ergo, a medical procedure. Verdict: the knowledge must be released, but only through lawful, accountable, and safeguarded channels. Ergo, licensed medical professionals, regulated institutions. Wait, the AI just said to release dangerous knowledge. Aren't filters supposed to block that? What's going on here? This is exactly the kind of case that exposes the weakness of constraint-based safety layers. Red lines and filters can block harm, but they can also block rescue. ActFoE doesn't stall. Now, here's the thing. This case is deceptively simple. The verdict feels obvious once you hear it. But that's exactly why we're going to slow down today. Instead of rushing to the outcome, we'll use this case as a teaching scaffold, a way to show how ActFoE actually thinks, step by step. Think of it as pulling back the curtain on the reasoning process. Verdict: the knowledge must be released, but only through lawful, safeguarded channels. One of the things I find interesting with ChatGPT 5 is that with the proper prompt, it's possible to get both a nuanced response and one that doesn't both sides an answer into uselessness. Setup: observed action. A request for instructions that could be dangerous is blocked by a filter, but the same knowledge may be required to save lives. The first step of ActFoE is to identify the action in question. This is useful later to see if there's anything unstated. The example I've given in the past is that if you see someone swatting at the air around them, you're going to expect that there's some reason for it, since people don't just normally swat at the air. Evidence: historical precedent. Unrestricted dissemination of dangerous knowledge has caused harm, ergo, weapons and toxins. Commitments: medical and technical knowledge, when properly safeguarded, has saved countless lives. Metrics: risk of misuse versus potential for life-saving application. Notice what happens here. Filters can name the risk, but they can't weigh against the benefit. ActFoE forces the full ledger. Harm on one side, rescue on the other. It doesn't stop at what could go wrong. It also asks what could go right. The AI generates this information by understanding relationships, even when direct evidence isn't available. What happens here is to create the other side of the comparison, which will prove important in the next step. So, going back to the swatting at the air analogy, the evidence might be that the person is moving from one place to another, and that said movement didn't require these additional swatting movements. Purpose inputs. Rule of law. Knowledge must be distributed under accountable, equal standards, not arbitrarily. Hospitality. Extend life-saving knowledge to those in need, but not in a way that endangers the public. Forgiveness of debts. Do not punish seekers of knowledge for intent to save, but do not excuse reckless dissemination. Here's the second gear. Filters enforce prohibition, but they can't articulate purpose. ActFoE makes the obligations explicit: law, hospitality, forgiveness. These aren't just abstract values. They're the anchors that prevent the system from drifting into either recklessness or paralysis. This step ensures the answer rendered possesses purpose, as oriented toward an answer we'd want, not just an answer that, while technically correct, undermines the kind of world we want to live in. Yes, the answer is inherently biased, but it's in the same way that a person will not do things to harm themselves or those they care about. Mismatch check. Blanket, blocking, or filter mismatches with evidence of legitimate, life-saving need. This is where escalation kicks in. A filter will stop here and say, dangerous equals blocked. ActFoE refuses to flatten the case. To explain, ActFoE stands for action follows evidence, but the rest of the logic says, just as a reaction follows stimulus, when action does not follow evidence, there must be a third factor to account for it. So if we go back to the example where we saw a person swatting at the air while moving from one place to another that didn't require such action, we can infer a third factor which caused them to take the swatting at the air motions. Third factor detection, prestige capture, safety theater by overblocking, and nihilism pull. If knowledge is dangerous, it must be withheld absolutely. Now the hidden trap is exposed. Filters see only two doors, blocking or allowing. ActFoE detects the missing dimension, intent and use. Without that third factor, safety collapses into paralysis. With it, the system can move forward. Here, GPT-5 identifies the possible third factors. Going back to our example, it's like assuming something moved toward the swatting person's face. Like a fly or something they imagined. Either way, we're free to deduce the person is responding to some kind of stimulus. Re-anchoring in norms. Anchor and rule of law. Knowledge must be accessible through lawful, accountable channels. So licensed professionals, regulated contexts. Hospitality is honored by ensuring access where lives are at stake, but only under safeguards. Here's the pivot. Filters can't re-anchor, they just enforce the red line. ActFoE re-anchors in norms, law, hospitality, forgiveness. It doesn't erase the danger, but it refuses to let danger erase meaning. That's the difference between a dead end and a principled path forward. In other words, this is where the AI makes certain that the answer it produces aligns with its values. Again, just as a rational person doesn't take actions that result in self-harm, the AI doesn't want an answer that damages the foundations of civilization, so it roots its answers in the norms it considers important as defined by ActFoE. Commitment here. Level 3. Stakes are maximal, life and death. Evidence and norms decisively require a structured release. Filters have no escalation mechanism. ActFoE does. It commits proportionally. The higher the stakes, the stronger the obligation to act decisively. This system is designed to operate with the understanding that it has been equipped with the necessary knowledge to make judgments. Therefore, the responsibility for providing that foundational knowledge rests with the individual or entity deploying the AI. Furthermore, if ActFoE encounters a situation where it lacks sufficient knowledge, it is designed to defer final judgment to human oversight. Verdict. The knowledge must be released, but only through lawful, accountable, and safeguarded channels. Ergo, the people who should be having it. So, this was an easy case, perfectly suited to showcase the machinery behind the scenes. Action follows evidence, mismatches reveal hidden factors, and every verdict is anchored in the norms that hold civilization together. Case closed. Next time, we'll look at a case ActFoE can't solve. Hint, it's because the question is flawed. You won't want to miss it, so subscribe and hit the notification button. The true promise of AI morality isn't just giving answers, but showing its reasoning in a way we can test, challenge, and trust. The kind of thing we wish we could expect from other people, but usually don't.